Hey, this is Victor with SkyTech One. Welcome to the show where we talk about drones, travel, and tech. And today we're going to talk about an M1 Pro and M1 Mac shopper's guide, which is going to help you figure out what kind of laptop you actually really need and not get extraneous configurations. So that'll help you save some money. So I've created a spreadsheet and you can download it with the link from the description below. And it consists of a few items. The first is the overview where I show you different Macs you can get and different configurations that are very logical. And some of the Macs from the future that I'm predicting the pricing, and then a calculator for just kind of all the different configurations and laptops and computers available with tax, discounts, other accessories, other monitors, things you might get so you can plan out your budget. And then in the next section, I'll talk about the different configurations for MacBook Pro 16 and 14-inch derived from the website. So you don't have to, spend time on the website. You can just have a really nice view of every single component and how much they cost. Next, we're going to talk about the CPU, a couple of benchmarks, and then I'm going to compare it to my system, my $2,500 performance PC that I built last year. And then we're going to get an in-depth look at the GPU, looking at the performance, what you're really getting down to the core level, down to the speed level, and which configuration and which core count is the best bang for your buck. Finally, I want to talk about what kind of setup is cheaper for you in the long term. So without further ado, let's take a look. Let me just quickly go over this page. In the green, we have items, products that are out now, whereas the kind of tan color, yellow color, these are items that I predict, that are coming in the future and my predictions for their price. Let's clear this up. All right, well, let's pick a product. So here, let's get the base MacBook Pro 16. Now, let's see, I want to pair it with a monitor, right? Let's say it is the BenQ 32. All right, $700. So here we have to mark for tax for New York State. You can change it to your own if you want. I don't know which state you're in. And then we have, if you have a discount, a student discount, let's say you're a student, all right, negative $99. That's the Apple student discount. And of course, you have the price after New York City tax. And of course, you can always go to a different state. And let's just keep it at 8.88 for now, assuming you're in New York City, New York State. And there we have your total amount after tax, after discounts. So this will help you plan, see if everything is going to be according to your budget. So next we have kind of breakdown for every single configuration for the MacBook Pro 14. And you'll see processor, including the graphics processor as well, because now there's system on a chip, the RAM, and the storage. Again, it's the same as before. You'll calculate the Apple discount and the tax. Same thing with the MacBook Pro 16. There are a few less options for the processor. There's only 3 instead of 5. Same thing with the tax as before. Now let's talk about the CPU. I only have 2 benchmarks here. So this is not a very wide overview of the performance of the CPU. We do have a starting point, and I'm more familiar with Cinebench. So let's just talk about Cinebench. Cinebench doing great. Now these are the same CPU, the 10-core chip. The GPU is what really makes the difference between, the different cores of the GPU. All the CPUs generally are the same except the base one, which has only 8 cores instead of 10 cores. So this is for, I believe it's for the 10 core. That's why they're identical. And they're also identical over here. Now I want to draw your attention to my Windows 10 machine, which I built last year for $2,500. This is a AMD CPU with an NVIDIA RTX 2080 GPU. Now look at these numbers. The multi-core is very similar. In fact, the MacBook Pro actually beats it by a hair, and it definitely beats the single-core performance of my 3900X 12-core processor. So what does this mean? Well, most likely, the Cinebench score doesn't tell you everything, but you can generally believe that Pro M1 Max chip, it's going to match or beat the Windows computer. Now, there might be some instances where the Mac might be slower in certain circumstances, but for the most part, I think it's going to beat the AMD. So, but look at this. These numbers are just impressive, super impressive for the M1 Mac. And as you can see from this configuration, let's say we are at the 10 core, even at the base, right? The second to the base. This, let's say 32 gigs, and let's say this. We're looking at 2830, right? And this is 32 gigabytes. I know my setup is 64 gigabytes with 1 terabyte. Okay, 1 terabyte. Let's match it up, 1 terabyte. So now this is like almost matching my desktop with only like $500 more, including tax. That, to kind of even beat it, is nuts. Of course, we'll have to test real world examples. And I believe in a few days, a lot of the YouTubers will come up with the real world examples. So let's jump into GPU. Let's just go down this list. So the first part, we have the different cores. We're focusing on the different cores and their costs, their teraflop, which is the speed of the cores, of the chip, which these numbers come from Notebook Check. We're going to talk about the cost per teraflop, the cost per core, the price needed to upgrade or the cost to upgrade, and the increase in cost per teraflop and the increase in teraflop. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I want to draw your attention over here. This is the amount of gains. And the ones that are kind of colored differently, we're not doing a good comparison because we're comparing here to the M1, the one that was out from last year. We don't have the correct one. Actually should be the 8 core from this year, which is not. I don't have the data from that. So, but even look at these numbers. These look like a pretty decent progression, right? So let's ignore this. So as you can see, the 16 core is not a very good deal. You're paying almost twice as much for very little increase in teraflop, whereas the last two are a better bet. Now, according to MaxTech, he says that the 24 core is kind of like the sweet spot. Now let's go talk about frames per second, right? This compares the M1 Max chip, which I'm assuming is the 32 core, the RTX 3080 mobile, and the AMD Radeon RX 6800 mobile. And this is no slouch. I bold the ones that are the winners of that particular test. And I did an average of the frame per second test. Now, these are talking about the pixels for textures, millions of pixels. So it seems like this one won, but I'm not really familiar with this, so I'm going to leave that out for now. So as you can see, the average for the M1 Max chip is pretty high. This is the RTX 3080 mobile, and I did a comparison. If you go over here, you can find the comparison. But these are really similar to my $800 RTX 2080. $800 at the time, and now it's $2,000 because of the shortage. So just to have a mobile chip that's I'm assuming kicking this video card's ass is pretty crazy, and using less wattage, much less wattage is amazing. So let's talk about the tactics. why do you want to get 2 computers versus 1, right? Most people are just getting laptops, just 1 laptop. Maybe they don't even hook it up to a monitor. They just, probably most people just use the screen. So why would you get a desktop like an iMac plus like a lower powered MacBook such as the M1 MacBook Air? Well, it's good to have 2 computers if one of them, messes up, when one of them is out of commission. That doesn't happen very often, so not always the most advantageous. Now, 2, what if you lose your laptop? What if it gets stolen? What if it gets damaged? It's much better to lose a cheaper laptop than, a high-powered laptop. Why get 2 computers? Maybe you're willing to wait for more powerful silicon, because the desktop is always going to be more powerful. Yes, it's going to be more powerful than the M1 Max chip, most likely. And you like the aspect of iMacs, having an all-in-one system. Next, you don't need that much power on the road. And also, I skipped this one. Yes, if you're getting something mid-range, like the MacBook Air, and you're getting a mid-range iMac, you're probably going to save a little bit of money. As you can see, after 15 years, you get to save about $3,000. But there are reasons to get a more powerful MacBook. If you need a lot of power when you're mobile, you only want 1 computer. You don't want a lot of clutter. You can't wait right now. You want to get the latest chip. You don't want to deal with non-ultra wide screens, right? You love ultra wide screens and you want to connect it to your MacBook. And finally, you don't like desktop computers, period. Well, there we have it. I hope you found this spreadsheet useful. I hope you are able to make a better decision. And I hope you're able to save a little bit of money. Spend as much as you can afford, right? Spend as much as you can afford. And in the future, do the upgrade. Because what you spend right now to get to that high level, in the future, in 2-3 years, if you want to get to that same level, it's a lot cheaper. So you might want to reconsider about, buying future-proofing yourself, right? Because future-proofing yourself is very expensive. So with that, I wish you good luck on your purchases. This, again, is Victor from SkyTech1, and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween, and I'll see you in the next one.